Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the stars through the main viewport. The ship had been traveling for 3 months now, exploring the outer edges of human space. Jake had been a space captain for 15 years, but this mission felt different. They were farther from Earth than any human had ever gone before. "Captain, we're picking up something on long-range sensors," said Lieutenant Maria Santos from her station. "It's big, and it's not moving like an asteroid." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The object was massive, much larger than any human ship. It had smooth curves and strange angles that no human engineer would design. His heart started beating faster. This could be it. This could be first contact. "Sound General Quarters," Jake ordered. "Get Commander Brooks to the bridge, and wake up Dr. Walsh." The ship came alive with activity. Crew members ran to their battle stations. Jake knew they might be facing something wonderful or something terrible. Either way, humanity was about to change forever. Commander Lisa Brooks arrived on the bridge within minutes. She was Earth's best diplomat, chosen for this mission in case they met alien life. Dr. Kevin Walsh came right behind her, still putting on his uniform. Kevin was the ship's science officer and knew more about alien life theories than anyone else on Earth. "What do we have, Jake?" Lisa asked, looking at the main screen. "Unknown vessel, about 10 times our size. It's been sitting there for the past hour, not moving." "No response to our hail attempts," Jake replied. Kevin studied the sensor readings. "The hull material is nothing we've seen before, and look at these energy readings. Their power source is incredible." Suddenly, the communications panel lit up. A voice came through the speakers, speaking perfect English with a strange accent. "Human vessel U.S. Liberty. This is Ambassador Vextar, of the Zenthari Empire. We have been waiting for you to find us. We come in peace and friendship." Jake looked at Lisa. She nodded and stepped forward. "This is Commander Lisa Brooks of the United Earth Space Command. We're honored to meet you, Ambassador Vextar. This is a historic moment for our species." "Indeed it is, Commander Brooks. We have watched your species grow and develop. You have reached the stars faster than most young races. We would like to invite you aboard our vessel to discuss your future among the galactic community." Lisa felt excited and nervous at the same time. "We would be honored to accept your invitation." 2 hours later, Jake, Lisa, and Kevin found themselves in a transport shuttle heading toward the alien ship. The Zenthari vessel was beautiful, with smooth silver walls and soft blue lights. Everything looked peaceful and welcoming. Ambassador Vextar met them at the docking bay. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. He wore flowing robes that seemed to change color as he moved. His voice was calm and friendly. "Welcome, humans. I am Ambassador Vextar. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for your species." He led them through corridors filled with strange but beautiful art. Other Zenthari moved through the halls, all looking calm and peaceful. They reached a large room with a table surrounded by comfortable chairs. "Please sit," Vextar said. "Let me tell you about the galaxy you are about to join." Vextar explained that the galaxy was home to hundreds of intelligent species. Most belonged to something called the Galactic Council, which kept peace between different worlds. The Zenthari Empire served as peacekeepers, helping young species learn to live safely among the stars. "Your species shows great promise," Vextar continued. "But the galaxy can be dangerous for those who expand too quickly. Young races often make enemies or encounter threats they cannot handle. This is why we have the stabilization period." "What kind of stabilization period?" Lisa asked. "All new species must agree to limit their expansion for a time, while they learn galactic customs and laws. This protects them from hostile neighbors and cosmic dangers. During this time, we provide guidance, technology, and protection." Kevin had been quiet, but now he spoke up. "How long does this period usually last?" "It varies by species. Some need only a few decades, others require longer. The important thing is that no young race faces the galaxy alone." Lisa considered this carefully. It sounded reasonable. Humanity had only been traveling between stars for 50 years. They probably did have a lot to learn about galactic civilization. What would this mean for human expansion? She asked. Simply, that you would pause your colonization efforts while we help you understand galactic society. Your existing colonies would remain, of course. We would establish communication networks, provide advanced technology, and introduce you to other peaceful species. Jake had been listening carefully. Something felt strange about this offer, but he could not put his finger on what bothered him. The Xanthari seemed genuinely friendly and helpful. We would need to discuss this with Earth's government, Lisa said. Of course, we would not expect such an important decision to be made quickly. Take all the time you need. We have waited this long to meet you. We can wait a little longer for your answer. Vextar gave them a small device. This communicator will let you contact us from anywhere in your space. When you are ready to talk, simply activate it. The humans returned to their ship with mixed feelings. The meeting had gone better than anyone had hoped. The Xanthari seemed wise and peaceful. Their offer of protection and guidance could help humanity avoid serious mistakes. But Kevin felt uneasy as he studied the scans of the alien ship. Something about their technology did not match their story. The Xanthari claimed to be peaceful, but their ship had weapon systems more advanced than anything humanity could imagine. Back on Earth, the news of first contact caused excitement around the world. After months of debate, Earth's leaders decided to accept the Xanthari offer. The stabilization period seemed like a smart way to learn about the galaxy safely. Lisa returned to the alien ship to sign the agreement. The ceremony was broadcast across human space. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They had found friends among the stars who would guide them to a bright future. But as the UES Liberty headed back to Earth, none of them knew the truth. The Xanthari had used this same offer to trap dozens of promising species. The galaxy was not the peaceful community they described. It was an empire built on lies, and humanity had just agreed to become its newest prisoners. 5 years had passed since humanity signed the agreement with the Xanthari Empire. Captain Dan Miller sat in the pilot seat of his cargo ship, the Earth Trader, staring at his navigation display with growing anger. This was the third time this month his ship had malfunctioned at the exact same coordinates. Navigation system failure again, his co-pilot Jenny Park announced from her station. Same error code as before. Dan hit the control panel with his fist. This is impossible. We just had the entire navigation system replaced last week with brand new Xanthari components. How can it fail in the exact same spot every time? The Earth Trader was trying to reach a mining operation on Kepler 442b, a planet that human surveys had identified as rich in rare metals. But every time Dan tried to jump to hyperspace toward that destination, his ship's systems would shut down and force him to return to human-controlled space. Back on Earth, engineer Sarah Murphy was having similar problems. She worked at the main shipyard where all human vessels received their mandatory Xanthari technology upgrades. Sarah had been studying the alien components for months, and what she found made her sick to her stomach. Dr. Walsh, you need to see this, Sarah called to Kevin, who had returned to Earth after the first contact mission. Kevin now worked as the head of the Alien Technology Research Division. Sarah pointed to her microscope display. These are the Xanthari power regulators that every human ship is required to use. Look at what I found inside them. Kevin looked through the microscope and saw tiny machines smaller than human cells moving through the alien components. What are those? Nanobots. Millions of them. They're in every piece of Xanthari technology we've installed on our ships. And Kevin, they're not just monitoring our ships, they're controlling them. Kevin felt his blood run cold. Controlling them how? Sarah pulled up a complex diagram on her computer. The nanobots can shut down any system at any time. Navigation, life support, weapons, communication, everything. We thought we were upgrading our technology, but we've actually been installing remote control devices. Meanwhile, on the colony world of New Boston, General Rick Hayes was dealing with his own set of problems. Communication with Earth had become unreliable. Supply ships were arriving weeks behind schedule. And most concerning of all, several survey teams had disappeared while exploring areas outside the main colony. General Hayes called his staff meeting to order. What's the status on the missing survey teams? Colonel Amy Carter, who had trained Earth's first interstellar defense force, spoke up. "Sir, we've lost contact with 3 teams in the past month. All were investigating areas that our long-range sensors identified as having valuable resources. What does the Zenthari liaison say about this? Ambassador Kethavar claims there are dangerous cosmic phenomena in those areas. He says the survey teams probably had equipment failures and are walking back to base. But sir, it's been 3 weeks. Even on foot, they should have made it back by now." General Hayes studied the map of their colony area. The missing teams had all been exploring in the same direction, toward what appeared to be empty space. But their initial sensor sweeps had shown signs of other civilizations in that direction. "Colonel Carter, I want you to prepare a search and rescue mission. Use only pre-contact human technology. No Zenthari components at all." Amy nodded. "Sir, there's something else. Our weapons training programs have been experiencing strange glitches. The Zenthari combat simulators keep showing us tactics that don't make sense. It's like they're teaching us to fight badly on purpose." Back on Earth, Dr. Nina Foster was making her own disturbing discovery. Nina was a quantum physicist who had been working with Zenthari scientists to advance human understanding of faster-than-light travel. But the more she studied their theories, the more she realized something was wrong. "The equations don't work," Nina muttered to herself as she worked late in her laboratory. "The Zenthari gave us these formulas for improved hyperspace drives, but when I run the calculations, they lead to power system failures." Nina had spent months trying to make the Zenthari theories work, assuming she was making mistakes in her understanding. But now she realized the truth. The aliens had given humanity scientific theories that were deliberately flawed. Every advance that humans tried to make using Zenthari knowledge led to dead ends or dangerous failures. She picked up her secure phone and called Kevin Walsh. "Kevin, we need to meet, tonight, and don't use any Zenthari communication devices." That same night, on the mining station Ceres base, Captain Luke Evans was conducting his own investigation. Luke commanded the security force for the asteroid belt mining operations. He had been a pilot during the early days of human space exploration. Before the Zenthari arrived, Luke was examining the sensor logs from the past 5 years. What he found made him realize that humanity was living in a cage they could not see. "Look at this pattern," Luke said to his second-in-command, Maria Santos, who had served with him since before first contact. "Every time one of our ships tries to go beyond a certain distance from human colonies, they experience system failures." Maria studied the data. "It's like there's an invisible wall around all of human space." That's exactly what it is. The Zenthari have created a prison for us, and we've been helping them build it by installing their technology on every human ship. Word of these discoveries began to spread quietly through human space. Scientists, military officers, and ship captains started to communicate using old human technology, avoiding the Zenthari monitoring systems. Admiral Tom Bradley, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's Space Navy, called a secret meeting of trusted personnel. The meeting took place on an old research station that had been abandoned before first contact, using only pre-contact human communication equipment. "What we're discussing here today could be considered treason against our agreement with the Zenthari," Admiral Bradley began. "But based on the evidence we've gathered, I believe humanity has been deceived." Sarah Murphy presented her findings about the nanobots. Nina Foster explained how the alien scientific theories were sabotaging human advancement. General Hayes reported on the missing survey teams and the strange problems affecting the colonies. "The pattern is clear," Admiral Bradley concluded. "The Zenthari haven't offered us protection and guidance. They've imprisoned us. The question now is what we're going to do about it." Kevin Walsh, who had been quiet during most of the meeting, finally spoke up. "I've been thinking about this for months. The Zenthari ship we first encountered was too well prepared for meeting us. They knew exactly what to say, exactly how to appeal to our caution and desire for safety. This wasn't their first time doing this." "What do you mean?" Admiral Bradley asked. "I think we're not the first species they've done this to. I think the Zenthari Empire has been trapping young civilizations for a very long time. We need to find out what happened to the others." The meeting ended with a decision to form a secret resistance organization. They would work to free humanity from Xanthari control and discover the truth about the galactic community they thought they had joined. As the conspirators left the abandoned station, none of them knew that their rebellion was about to uncover secrets that would shake the entire galaxy. The secret base hidden deep in the asteroid belt looked nothing like the sleek Xanthari designs humans had grown used to. Chief Engineer Carol Stone had built it using only materials and technology that existed before first contact. Every bolt, every wire, every computer chip came from purely human sources. "Welcome to Freedom Station," Carol said as Admiral Tom Bradley arrived on the supply shuttle. "It's not pretty, but it's ours. No alien technology anywhere." Admiral Bradley looked around the rough-hewn corridors carved directly into the asteroid rock. After 5 years of living with Xanthari improvements, the station felt primitive but honest. "How many people do we have now?" 47 personnel across 12 different ships and stations. All volunteers, all people who figured out the truth, on their own. We're calling ourselves the Liberation Fleet. In the main operations center, Captain Luke Evans was studying star charts on an old-fashioned paper map. His ship, the UES Defiance, was humanity's first attempt at building a vessel, completely free of alien influence. Every component had been manufactured in secret using pre-contact human technology. "The navigation tests are complete," Luke reported. "The Defiance can go anywhere without system failures. We're no longer prisoners of our own ships." Pilot Maria Santos worked at a communication station that looked ancient compared to Xanthari equipment. "I've been monitoring alien communications using the old radio telescope array. The Xanthari think we're completely contained, but they're wrong. Some of their messages aren't even encrypted." Intelligence Officer Kate Russell had been the first to break into the Xanthari communication networks. What she found there had changed everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. "Admiral, you need to hear this," Kate said, activating a recording device. The voice that came through the speakers was Ambassador Vextar, but he sounded nothing like the friendly diplomat humans remembered. The humans remained contained within their designated zone. Like the Karathi before them, they show no signs of suspecting the true nature of their situation. "Recommend maintaining current protocols for another decade before beginning resource extraction phase." Admiral Bradley felt sick. "Resource extraction phase?" Kate nodded grimly. "It gets worse. I've found records of dozens of other species. The Xanthari have been doing this for centuries. They find promising young civilizations, offer them protection and guidance, then slowly drain their resources and enslave their populations." Dr. Alex Turner, who had been working in the station's laboratory, entered the room carrying a strange device. Alex had been developing new propulsion technology based on theories the Xanthari had tried to suppress. "I've got good news and bad news," Alex announced. "The good news is that I've cracked the hyperspace barrier. This device can punch through whatever the Xanthari are using to keep us trapped." "And the bad news?" Admiral Bradley asked. "The energy requirements are enormous. We can only use it once, maybe twice, before we drain our entire power grid. If we're going to break out, we need to make it count." Captain Joe Parker had been chosen to lead the first breakout mission. Joe was one of the youngest members of the Liberation Fleet, but he had grown up dreaming of exploring the galaxy before. The Xanthari arrived. His ship, the Scout's Honor, had been specially modified with Alex's new drive system. "The mission is simple," Admiral Bradley explained to the assembled team. "Get past the containment barrier, find out what's really out there, and come back with proof. We need to know what we're up against." Joe and his small crew launched from Freedom Station under cover of a simulated asteroid mining operation. To any Xanthari observers, they would appear to be routine workers collecting rare metals. But hidden in their cargo hold was humanity's first real chance at freedom. The moment of truth came at the edge of human space where so many ships had failed before. Joe activated Alex's breakthrough device, and for the first time in 5 years, a human ship successfully jumped beyond the invisible prison walls. What they found on the other side shocked them. The space that Xanthari sensors had always shown as empty was actually filled with planets, space stations, and the ruins of dead civilizations. Joe's crew detected dozens of worlds that showed signs of intelligent life, but no space traffic, no communications, no signs of active civilization. "It's like a graveyard," whispered navigator Sally Chen as they approached the nearest planet. These worlds are inhabited, but the civilizations are barely surviving. They landed on a world the Zinthari had never mentioned, where they met the Karathi. The alien beings looked like tall, thin reptiles with intelligent eyes that showed both hope and fear when they saw the human ship. The Karathi leader, speaking through a translation device that Joe's crew had brought, told them a story that made their blood run cold. "We were like you once. Young, hopeful, ready to join the galactic community. The Zinthari came to us 300 years ago with the same offer they gave you. We accepted their guidance, their protection, their gifts." The Karathi explained how their civilization had been slowly drained over the centuries. Their best minds were taken away for advanced education and never returned. Their resources were shipped off-world for processing that never seemed to end. Their population was moved to smaller and smaller areas for safety reasons that never made sense. "They keep us alive because dead slaves are useless," the Karathi leader continued. "But we are no longer truly living. We exist only to serve their empire." But there was hope. The Karathi had maintained secret resistance cells for generations, waiting for someone to break free and offer them help. They had hidden advanced technology, preserved forbidden knowledge, and kept their true culture alive in underground communities. "We have weapons they don't know about," the Karathi leader revealed. "We have ships they think are destroyed. We have been preparing for this day for 3 centuries. If you can help us coordinate with others, we can fight back." Joe's crew spent 3 days on the Karathi world, learning about the true structure of the Zinthari Empire. They discovered that dozens of species had been trapped the same way humanity had been trapped. Some had been prisoners for thousands of years. The Karathi gave them coordinates to other hidden civilizations. The aquatic Helians had been developing biological weapons that could affect Zinthari physiology. The crystalline Vorth had created communication networks that the Empire couldn't detect. The insectoid Thek had built massive underground factories that could produce weapons and ships. When Joe's ship returned to Freedom Station, they brought more than just intelligence. They brought proof that humanity was not alone in their desire for freedom. And they brought allies who had been waiting centuries for someone to light the spark of rebellion. Admiral Bradley looked at the star charts showing the locations of the hidden resistance movements. "How long do we have before the Zinthari notice we broke through their containment?" "Not long," Kate Russell replied, monitoring alien communications. "They're already asking questions about unusual energy readings in our sector. I estimate we have maybe a week before they realize what happened." The room fell silent as everyone understood what this meant. Humanity's secret was out. The Zinthari would soon know that their newest prisoners had broken free. The Liberation Fleet would have to act quickly, or they would face the full might of an empire that had been perfecting the art of enslavement for millennia. But for the first time since first contact, humans felt something they had almost forgotten. They felt hope. The alarm bells rang through Freedom Station as Kate Russell burst into the command center. "They know. The Zinthari know we broke through their containment. I'm picking up massive fleet movements heading toward human space." Admiral Tom Bradley studied the tactical display showing dozens of alien ships moving toward Earth. "How long do we have?" 72 hours before they reach our outer colonies. Maybe a week before they get to Earth itself." Captain Ben Wright had just returned from his second diplomatic mission to the enslaved worlds. His ship carried representatives from 6 different species, all eager to join the fight for freedom. The timing could not have been worse. "The good news is that every species we've contacted wants to help," Ben reported. "The bad news is that most of them are barely surviving. They don't have much military strength left." The Karathi representative, a tall reptilian being named Sektar, spoke through the translation device. "My people have been preparing for this war for 300 years. We have weapons hidden across 12 star systems, but we need time to organize." Jenny Kim, who served as the primary translator for all alien communications, was working frantically to coordinate between the different species. "The Helians can't leave their water worlds quickly, but they're sending biological weapons that can poison Zinthari life support systems. The Vorth are providing communication crystals that can't be jammed. The Thek are loading factory ships with weapon components." Dr. Steve Clark, The marine biologist who had made first contact with the aquatic Helians brought urgent news from their underwater cities. The Helians have something called the deep memory. It's a genetic record of every species the Xanthari have enslaved going back thousands of years. They say the Empire has done this to over 200 civilizations. The scope of the Xanthari crimes was becoming clear, but there was no time to fully understand the horror. Xanthari Fleet Commander Zorthak was leading the largest military force the Empire had assembled in centuries, determined to crush the human rebellion before it could spread to other enslaved worlds. Admiral Grace Bell stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, humanity's flagship and most powerful warship. Grace had been promoted from captain to admiral in the past week, as Earth desperately prepared for war. Around her, the combined human fleet looked pitifully small compared to what was coming. "All ships report ready for battle," announced Communications Officer Ryan Moore. "We have 43 human vessels, 12 Karathi ships that managed to break free from their worlds, and 6 alien ships from various other species." Grace knew the numbers were hopeless. Intelligence reports suggested the Xanthari were bringing over 300 warships, each more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. But they had advantages the Empire didn't expect. "Remember, they think we're still using their sabotage technology," Grace told her officers. "They expect our ships to fail when we need them most. They don't know we've purged every piece of alien tech from our vessels." The first battle took place near Jupiter, where a Xanthari advance force encountered Captain Luke Evans and his strike squadron. Luke had volunteered to lead the most dangerous mission of the war, a direct assault on the alien command ship. "Here they come," pilot Maria Santos announced as the alien ships appeared on their screens. The Xanthari vessels were beautiful and terrifying, with smooth hull designs that seemed to flow like liquid metal. "All ships attack pattern Alpha," Luke ordered. "Remember, they think we're primitives. Let's show them what human engineering can really do." The battle was unlike anything humans had ever experienced. Xanthari weapons fired beams of pure energy that could cut through ship hulls like paper. But the human ships were faster and more maneuverable than the aliens expected. Years of being underestimated had given humanity an advantage they didn't realize they had. Luke's ship, the UES Defiance, dove straight at the Xanthari flagship. The alien commander, expecting human technology to fail at the crucial moment, was shocked when Luke's weapon systems worked perfectly. The first shots from human ships in 5 years struck home, damaging the enemy vessel's shields. "Impossible," Fleet Commander Zorthak said, as he watched human ships performing maneuvers that should have been beyond their capability. "Their technology should be failing. Our nanobots should be shutting down their systems." But the nanobots were gone. Sarah Murphy and her engineering teams had spent months purging every alien component from human technology. The ships fighting now were purely human designs, crude but effective. The space battle raged for hours. Human ships used tactics the Xanthari had never seen before, diving and weaving through asteroid fields, using debris as cover, coordinating attacks with a flexibility that the rigid Empire military couldn't match. Colonel Frank Davis led the ground assault on Europa Station, where the Xanthari had established a monitoring base years earlier. Frank's troops used equipment that looked primitive compared to alien technology, but it worked when they needed it to work. "Plant the charges on the main communication array," Frank ordered his demolition team. "If we can cut their ability to coordinate their fleet, we might have a chance." The battle for Europa Station was brutal. Xanthari soldiers were taller and stronger than humans, but they had grown used to fighting enemies whose weapons would malfunction at critical moments. Human weapons didn't malfunction. Every shot fired exactly when the trigger was pulled. Commander Helen Ward led a boarding party onto a damaged Xanthari cruiser. Her mission was to capture alien officers for interrogation and steal whatever technology they could carry. What they found inside the ship shocked them. "Admiral, you need to see this," Helen reported over the radio. "This ship has holding cells full of prisoners, dozens of them from species I've never seen before." The prisoners were members of enslaved species who showed signs of intelligence or leadership. The Xanthari had been quietly removing potential troublemakers from their conquered worlds for centuries, keeping them as hostages to ensure compliance. Among the prisoners was an ancient being who identified himself as Kethmore, a former Zenthari scientist who had tried to oppose the Empire's slavery policies thousands of years ago. Kethmore had been imprisoned so long that most of his people thought he was dead. "You must understand," Kethmore told Helen through a translation device. "The Zenthari were not always like this. My people were once enslaved themselves long ago. We broke free and swore never to be slaves again. But somewhere in our history we became the enslavers instead of the enslaved. This revelation changed everything. The Zenthari Empire itself had been built by former slaves who had become so afraid of being enslaved again that they enslaved everyone else first. The first battle ended with a tactical victory for the liberation forces. The Zenthari advance fleet was destroyed, but at a terrible cost. Humanity lost half their ships and thousands of brave people died in the fighting. But something unexpected happened. As news of the battle spread through the galaxy's hidden networks, enslaved species began to rise up on their home worlds. The rebellion that started with humanity breaking free from containment was spreading like wildfire. Admiral Grace Bell received reports from across the galaxy. The Karathi had seized control of their primary industrial world. The Helians had destroyed the Zenthari underwater bases on their ocean planets. The crystalline Vorth had somehow managed to turn their entire moon into a massive weapon. "It's working," Ryan Moore announced, reading incoming messages. 17 different species have declared independence in the past 24 hours. The Empire is fighting rebellions on dozens of worlds. But the celebration was short-lived. Kate Russell's intelligence network brought terrifying news. Fleet Commander Zorthak was no longer interested in containing the rebellion. He had received orders from the highest levels of the Zenthari government to implement something called Final Protocol. "What's Final Protocol?" Admiral Bradley asked. Kate's face was pale as she read the intercepted communications. "Complete sterilization. If they can't control the enslaved species, they're going to kill them all. Every world that has rebelled, every species that has joined the liberation forces. They're planning to destroy entire star systems to stop the EU rebellion from spreading." The war had entered a new phase. This was no longer about freedom or slavery. This was about the survival of every intelligent species in the galaxy, except the Zenthari themselves. The liberation forces had awakened, something in their oppressors that was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The first planet to die was Karathi Prime. General Chris Baker watched from the bridge of the Liberation flagship as the Zenthari doomsday weapon turned the homeworld of humanity's first allies into a burning wasteland. 3 billion Karathi had lived there just hours before. "They're not just destroying military targets," reported intelligence officer Julie Pierce, her voice shaking as she read the sensor data. "They're sterilizing entire biospheres. Nothing will live on that planet for 1,000 years." The Zenthari had revealed weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. Massive ships called world breakers that could poison atmospheres, boil oceans, and crack planetary crusts. Fleet Commander Zorthak was using them without mercy against any world that showed signs of rebellion. "How many more planets do they have?" Admiral Grace Bell asked. "Intelligence suggests they have at least 20. World breakers," Julie replied. "Each one can destroy a planet in less than 6 hours. At this rate, they can wipe out every rebelling species within a month." On Earth, the population was in panic. News of the planetary destructions had reached human space, and everyone knew that Earth would be next. The Zenthari had made it clear that they would accept nothing less than complete surrender or total extermination. Dr. Laura Green worked frantically in the captured Zenthari archives that Helen Ward's boarding parties had seized during the first battle. Laura was searching for any weakness in the Empire's war machine, any piece of information that could help save the galaxy from genocide. "There has to be something," Laura muttered as she scrolled through thousands of years of alien records. No empire is completely invincible. What she found buried in the deepest files changed everything. The Zenthari Empire had a secret that even most of their own people didn't know. The technology that powered their world breakers, their fastest ships, and their most deadly weapons didn't originally belong to them. "Admiral Bradley, you need to see this immediately," Laura called over the emergency communication network. "The Zenthari didn't invent their superweapons. They stole them. The records showed that millions of years ago, the galaxy had been ruled by a different species called the predecessors. The predecessors had been peaceful builders who created wonders beyond imagination, but they had been overthrown by the early Zenthari in a war that nearly destroyed the galaxy. According to these files, the Zenthari didn't just defeat the predecessors, Laura explained to the Emergency War Council. They hunted them to extinction. But before the last predecessors died, they hid something. The archives call it the Master Override. Captain Sam Reed, who had been leading deep strike missions against Zenthari supply lines, studied the ancient star charts Laura had found. The files point to a location in the galactic core, a place the Zenthari call the Forbidden Zone. No Empire ships have gone there for over 1 million years. The Master Override was apparently a control system that could shut down all predecessor technology, including the weapons the Zenthari had stolen. But reaching it would require traveling through the most heavily defended region of space in the galaxy. It's a suicide mission, admitted engineer Bob Taylor, who had been working on modifications to make human ships faster. The core region has automated defense systems that have been running for millions of years, plus whatever the Zenthari have added to keep people away. But they had no choice. The world breakers were systematically destroying every planet that had joined the rebellion. The aquatic Helian worlds were already dying, their oceans turned to poison. The crystalline Vorth were fighting desperately to protect their remaining colonies. Navigator Cindy Walsh had been studying the route to the galactic core using both human and captured alien navigation data. I think I've found a way through. The defenses. The predecessors built secret passages through their own protection systems. If the archives are right, those passages might still work. The mission fell to Captain Sam Reed and his crew aboard the modified scout ship UES Breakthrough. The ship had been stripped of everything unnecessary and equipped with the fastest engines human technology could build. They would have one chance to reach the galactic core before the Zenthari realized what they were trying to do. The journey took them through regions of space that no living being had seen for millions of years. Ancient predecessor installations floated in the darkness, still powered after eons of abandonment. Some of them scanned the human ship as it passed, as if trying to understand what these newcomers were. The energy readings are incredible, reported SAM's science officer, Pete Rodriguez. These ancient machines are more advanced than anything the Zenthari have. How did they lose the war? The answer came when they reached the first predecessor ruins that showed signs of battle damage. The ancient installations had been designed for peace and creation, not war. When the Zenthari attacked, the predecessors had been unprepared for such massive violence. But as the UES Breakthrough traveled deeper into the core region, they began to detect something unexpected. Energy signatures that suggested the predecessors weren't completely extinct. Communications officer Julie Pierce made contact first. The signal came through on frequencies that human equipment barely recognized, carrying a message in mathematical concepts rather than words. "They're still here," Julie announced in amazement. "The predecessors. Some of them survived by hiding in parallel dimensions. They've been watching the galaxy for millions of years, waiting for someone to challenge the Zenthari." The surviving predecessors had been trapped in their hidden dimensions, unable to act directly in normal space but able to observe everything that happened. They had watched the Zenthari Empire grow and enslave species after species, but they had been powerless to intervene. "We have waited so long for others to show the courage you have shown." The predecessor entity communicated through complex mathematical patterns. "Your species may be young, but you have something the galaxy lost long ago. You refuse to accept that tyranny is permanent." The Master Override was real, but using it would require a sacrifice. The system had been designed as a last resort, capable of shutting down all predecessor technology in the galaxy. But activating it would also destroy the hidden dimensions where the remaining predecessors lived. "We are the last of our kind," the entity explained, "but we would rather die knowing that freedom is possible than live forever watching slavery continue. The choice is yours." Captain Sam Reed looked at his crew. They had come this far knowing they might not return. Now they faced a decision that would determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. Back in normal space, the war was going badly for the liberation forces. Another 6 worlds had been destroyed by the world breakers. The Zenthari were systematically hunting down every rebel base, every hidden fleet, every species that had dared to dream of freedom. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the UES Breakthrough," reported Communications Officer Ryan Moore to Admiral Bradley. "Captain Reed says they've found the master override, but they need permission to activate it." Admiral Bradley understood what Sam was really asking. The master override would stop the world breakers and cripple the Zenthari war machine, but it would also wipe out the last remnants of the galaxy's original peaceful civilization. "Tell Captain Reed he has permission to proceed," Admiral Bradley ordered. "And tell him that the galaxy will remember what the predecessors sacrificed for our freedom." In the depths of the galactic core, Sam Reed placed his hand on the master override control. Around him, the ancient predecessor installation hummed with power that had been building for millions of years. One activation would change everything. "For Earth," Sam whispered. "For all the enslaved worlds. For everyone who dreams of freedom." He pressed the control, and across the galaxy, every piece of predecessor technology began to shut down. The world breakers stopped firing their deadly weapons. Zenthari ships found their most advanced systems failing. The empire that had ruled through stolen power for millions of years suddenly found itself vulnerable. The final battle for the galaxy's freedom was about to begin. 20 years had passed since the master override changed the galaxy forever. Captain Andy Cooper stood on the bridge of the UES Explorer, watching as his ship approached a system that had been forbidden to explore for millions of years. Andy was the son of a Liberation War veteran, born into a galaxy where freedom was no longer just a dream. The immediate aftermath of the master override had been chaos. When the Zenthari Empire's stolen technology failed across the galaxy, their world, breakers stopped working. Their fastest ships became stranded and their communication networks went silent. But the Empire still had millions of soldiers and thousands of ships built with their own original technology. The final battle had lasted 3 months. Fleet Commander Zorthak, desperate to maintain control, had ordered his remaining forces to fight to the death, rather than accept defeat. The battle had raged across dozens of star systems as the Liberation forces pressed their advantage. Admiral Grace Bell, now an elderly woman, had led the final assault on the Zenthari homeworld. The planet had been heavily defended, but without their advanced weapons, the Empire's defenses crumbled before the combined might of dozens of formerly enslaved species fighting together. "The Zenthari resistance ended when we captured their capital city," Grace had written in her memoirs. But the real victory came when their own people began to surrender voluntarily. Many of them were tired of the endless cycle of oppression. Captain Andy Cooper's current mission was part of the Great Archive Project, an effort to explore and document everything the Zenthari had hidden from the galaxy. His science officer, Dr. Lisa Morgan, was one of the leading experts on predecessor archaeology. "The readings are incredible," Lisa reported as they approached the ancient ruins. "This entire system was a predecessor research facility. The technology here might be millions of years more advanced than anything we've seen. The galaxy had changed dramatically since the liberation. The Galactic Council that the Zenthari had claimed to represent turned out to be a fiction. In its place, a real council had been formed, with representatives from every free species working together to rebuild what had been destroyed." President Linda Gray addressed the current session of the Galactic Assembly of Free Worlds from the former Zenthari capital, which had been renamed Unity City. Linda had been elected by popular vote from across human space, but she spoke for all of humanity in the galactic government. "We gather today to commemorate the 20-year anniversary of liberation," Linda announced to the assembled delegates, "but we also gather to ensure that the mistakes of the past are never repeated." The Zenthari themselves had undergone a difficult transformation. Most of their people had been ordinary citizens who knew nothing about their government's crimes. When the truth came out, many Zenthari were horrified by what their leaders had done in their name. Former Zenthari scientist Kethamore, who had been freed from prison during the war, now worked with human psychologist Dr. Wayne Foster to help his people understand their history. The process was slow and painful, but necessary. "My people forgot that we were once slaves ourselves," Kethamore explained to a mixed audience of humans and aliens during one of his lectures. We became so afraid of being enslaved again that we enslaved everyone else first. Fear made us become the very thing we once fought against. Engineer Ashley Stone, daughter of liberation hero Carol Stone, was working on the Great Archive project. From a different angle, Ashley's team was responsible for preserving the knowledge and culture of all the species that had nearly been lost to Xanthari oppression. Every species has something unique to contribute, Ashley explained to her research team as they cataloged artifacts from a dozen different civilizations. The Karathi have mathematical theories we never imagined. The Helians understand biology in ways that could revolutionize medicine. The crystalline Vorth see physics from a completely different perspective. The liberation had revealed just how much knowledge the Xanthari had suppressed over the centuries. Technologies that could have solved galactic hunger, cured diseases, or opened new frontiers of exploration had been hidden away to maintain the Empire's control. Young explorer crews led by captains like Tony Miller and Emma Parker were pushing into regions of space that had been forbidden for millennia. Every month brought new discoveries, abandoned predecessor cities, hidden refugee populations, and technologies that promised to make life better for everyone. The galaxy is so much bigger than we ever imagined, Emma reported during one of her expeditions to the far rim. We've found evidence of at least 3 other major civilizations that existed before the predecessors. There are layers of history here that go back billions of years. But the most important discovery was simpler than ancient technology or hidden civilizations. The various species of the galaxy were learning to work together in ways that had been impossible under the Empire's rule. The Galactic Freedom Accords, signed by every member species, established principles that seemed obvious but had been revolutionary in practice. No species could claim authority over another. No government could restrict the movement or development of any intelligent beings. Knowledge and technology had to be shared freely among all who could benefit from it. Veteran Admiral Lisa Brooks, now in her 80s, often visited schools across human space to tell young people about the old days when humanity had been trapped in an invisible cage. The children found it hard to believe that there had once been a time when humans couldn't travel freely among the stars. The most important thing to remember, Lisa would tell them, is that freedom is not something you receive as a gift. Freedom is something you have to choose, again and again, every day. The moment you stop choosing freedom, someone will try to take it away from you. The galaxy still faced challenges. Some species struggled to adapt to freedom after centuries of oppression. Others were suspicious of cooperation after generations of isolation. There were disputes over resources, arguments about territory, and disagreements about how to handle the remaining Xanthari population. But there were no more invisible prisons. No more species were being stabilized for their own protection. No young civilizations were being deceived into accepting limitations on their growth and exploration. On a space station orbiting Unity City, a human child named Marcus played with alien children whose species had names humanity was still learning to pronounce. They built toy spaceships together and planned imaginary adventures to distant stars. None of them had ever lived in a galaxy where such friendships were forbidden. Marcus and his friends represented something that the galaxy had not seen for millions of years. A generation growing up truly free among the stars. They would face their own challenges and make their own mistakes, but they would do so as equals, not as prisoners in golden cages built by those who claimed to know what was best for them. The greatest victory of the liberation was not the destruction of the Xanthari war machine or the revelation of hidden technologies. The greatest victory was the simple fact that when young beings looked up at the stars, they saw possibilities instead of limitations, adventures instead of boundaries, and a future that belonged to them rather than their captors. Humanity had risen from the frozen state imposed by their captors, but in breaking free, they had helped the entire galaxy remember what it meant to be truly alive. The stars that had once been divided into prison sectors were now open highways to infinite possibilities, and the future belonged to those brave enough to explore them.